The gentleman from Virginia is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Director. CBO's 2024 baseline has been released, and it tells a familiar story we know all too well. Our nation is in trouble. National debt now stands at a record high of $34.2 trillion, and it's expected to grow by more than $20 trillion by 2034, just 10 years away. For reference, our national debt has surpassed the debt to GDP levels we were experiencing during the height of World War II. Interest payments alone are expected to become our nation's second highest expenditure this year and are projected to surpass our entire defense budget and Medicare spending. Additionally, our Social Security Trust Fund is expected to reach insolvency in 2033, which would result in a 25% benefit cut across the board for beneficiaries. Of course, there's the added insult to injury of it being tax season back in our districts, and my constituents are looking at all the money being withheld on their W-2s and are wondering why they aren't seeing greater benefit to them. All of this goes to show how important it is that Congress stops the waste and begins to properly steward taxpayer dollars by following regular order, passing a balanced budget, and avoiding blowout omnibus spending bills. And in order to get there, the Congressional Budget Office plays an integral role in tracking our progress, or the lack thereof, through its forecasting on long-term budget outlooks and scoring on legislation to determine its fiscal impact. It's good to have you back, Director, for your second Budget Committee hearing in a row to discuss your role further. Director, CBO increased their projected labor force size in 2023 by 5.4 million people. This is a significant increase that your report attributes to higher projected net immigration. Can you elaborate on your methodology calculating immigrant population, and do you differentiate between legal and illegal immigrants?
Yes, so we do. We look at the different categories of immigrants. We look at the figures from the Department of Homeland Security, from the Customs and Border Patrol, at the immigrants who come in, with permits and green cards, and then ones who come in on parole, using the parole authority, and then ones who they call them gotaways, the ones who they estimate came in but they don't track. And in some sense, that's reflected in our figures. Is that the increase in the number of people released into the interior of the United States.
We know that this administration and Director Mayorkas specifically has abused our parole statutes and has been impeached by this House and is awaiting trial in the Senate. Based on reports from CPB and Secretary Mayorkas confirming that DHS is releasing nearly 85% of individuals encountered, there are already over approximately 5.4 million additional migrants in the labor force now. Does CBO account for the comments made by the Secretary that he is releasing 85% of migrants throughout the country? And what negative effects on the economy do you think that an enormous influx of illegal migrants can cause? I understand my colleague from California referenced that earlier.
Yeah, so we do take that into account, the numbers they're releasing to the interior. And then we look at the budgetary and economic effects of those immigrants. And I said at the beginning, and I'll say it again, there are social impacts, there's security impacts, there's impacts on state and local governments. And so we're focusing on the federal impacts, but I'll be the first one to say there are these broader impacts. There are impacts on the housing market that Mr. Grothman mentioned as well. So there's a wide range of
So impact on housing, downward pressure on wages, as Mr. McClintock alluded to as well. Are you accounting for the federal benefits that illegal migrants are receiving from entitlement programs?
So some of those we do have in our budget projections. The increased population, means that some people are entitled to, say, some refundable tax credits, and that we would have other benefits. Well, some of the spending is discretionary, and that that would be for future Congress. There's other benefits immigrants will be entitled to over time. And we're still working to analyze all of it.
And some of it is beyond the control of Congress. Right now in my home Commonwealth of Virginia, they are debating whether or not to allow illegally present children to access state-run Medicaid. And that will have an impact on our budget here federally, correct?
That's right. There's those state and local impacts that affect the federal government as well.
Are there data sets or information sharing agreements that you currently do not have access to at the state or federal level that you believe would help give CBO a deeper insight into the cost of illegal immigration?
The data are difficult because they're piecemeal. We've been able to get the data we need from DHS. Much of it now they've made public. So it's not that we can't get it, it's just putting it all together and understanding it. that's, in some sense, that's the challenge.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield.